Welcome to JustWannaQuilt, a research podcast coming out of Tulane University Law School, where we explore all kinds of things, stories about quilting, tools, field trips, maybe some famous quilters stop by, and, of course, a little bit of copyright thrown in just for fun. This is Elizabeth Townsend Guard. I'm a law professor at Tulane University Law School, and I just want to quilt. So today we're talking to Nancy Bronstein. She is an educator for Pfaff, Viking, and Singer, and she goes all over the country as a full-time teacher, explaining all of these amazing machines, and is way too convincing that we might need to get an embroidery machine. So we are going to chat with her, and you'll see. You might have to get an embroidery machine.
I am Nancy Bronstein. I'm calling from Great Barrington, Massachusetts, which is the western end of Massachusetts and nowhere near Boston.
Nowhere near Boston. People ask you that all the time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I know a person who lives in Boston. You know,
You're like, that's great. Right. Awesome for you. That's funny. All right. So I'm going to ask you the question we ask everybody, which is, tell me your first memory of someone sewing or quilting in your life.
Well, my mother was a quilter, garment maker, home deck maker, and she had a little sewing nook that I remember her sewing in when I was very little. And before I started school, I think I used to help her with tie quilts. I would put my finger down on the knot when she was knotting or there might be a different name for them.
Yeah.
She would take old beat-up quilts and put flannel on both sides, and then there'd be a string. And it was, instead of quilting it, she would pull a string through it, and you would tie a knot, and that would be the quilting, basically. And then
That's really interesting.
It's an old-fashioned, quick way to
the
blankets.
I haven't heard of that before. That's really interesting. Interesting. So, and when did you start sewing?
I don't remember when I started. I was so little. I remember making doll clothes when I was very small, and then I started making my own clothes probably in late elementary school. And then
what did you make in late elementary school?
Oh, a simple skirt, with an elastic waistband, like an A-line, something simple like that.
Interesting.
Yeah, nothing complicated. No sleeves, no zippers.
Not yet. No sleeves, no zippers. Yeah, it's true. I made my first sleeve and zipper this year. So it was like at 50, I frankly was like, okay, I'm ready to tackle it, I think. It was pathetic.
They scare off a lot of people.
So funny. Yeah, I think flat is better.
Yeah. There's something about, quilting has to be very exacting depending upon what type you're doing it.
It's
and
so
that
true.
That can be a challenge for. I'm not the greatest fabric cutter, as far as that accuracy that you need for really exacting quilting.
Yes. And how do you feel
about
that?
Garments, you have to fit to a three-dimensional person.
Oh my gosh, it's so
shape changes.
Yeah,
so
it turns out that's hard. Yeah, that's tough.
But then you
all
can
right.
fit you in.
And then they need to fit. That's right. Blankets don't have to fit, although you have to sort of measure them off the person. I do a lot of lap blankets, so there's a lot of like, here, lay down for a second. See if this is big enough. It's not good. I don't claim to be good at quilting. I'm just really enthusiastic. I'm okay with that. Oh my goodness. Okay. So your career path, straight, right, quilting from day one, or a little bit different?
No, you mean as far as my sewing experience?
Yeah, right.
I started out with doll clothes as a kid, and then went to garments, then went to probably bag making, and more garments, and home deck, and Halloween costumes for my kids, and then quilting, I'd say.
Cool.
So my mother was a quilter. I mean, I have a bunch of her quilts.
Oh, that's cool.
Maybe that's why I picked it up last, but it was
interesting.
But I've been sewing for so many years. Many years.
And then tell me about you, just before we get on. So we're going to talk about working for sewing machine companies and teaching and all that. That's what we're focused on today. But
okay.
Like so many people I talk with, you had a totally different life before you were doing what you're doing now. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I was in chiropractic practice and with my husband for off and on for about 30 years. We also did a lot of nutrition, and there was a gap in there. I went back and got a degree in computer science and worked in an IT department after my fourth child went to school because I wanted to change. And then I went back. And then a little over a year, about a year and a half ago now, I guess, I went to a Viking event where there was a Viking educator teaching a class. And as she was teaching it, I was thinking, when I retire, I could do that. That looks like fun. I'd like to go around and be with people who sew, and teach them new techniques and work on these high-end machines. That looks like a pretty good gig to me. So I talked to the educator, and she said, well, we periodically need educators. So I contacted her boss, and one thing led to another, and now I'm full-time.
Yeah. And so is it a viable I'm trying to understand the economics of this system. So being an educator and working for sewing machine companies, can you make a living off of it? Are people making a living off of it? Is it part-timey thing? How serious do you have to be to do what you're doing? Well,
you have to have a pretty serious sewing background as well as machine embroidery in the case of where I work, because the high-end machines have the capability of doing machine embroidery, and that's it's like learning a whole new skill, and it's a lot of fun. People get addicted to it like they do to quilting. They get really super addicted to it. And in our company, the situation is that most of the educators are freelance. So I would assume that most of them are working part-time. That I don't think that they are supporting themselves on their freelance education work.
And what do you? Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm fortunate enough to have been off. There are two full-time educators right now, and one educator. I got the position because another educator retired, and everything. I was very lucky to be coming in around that same time, and it all worked out. So for me, it is definitely a full-time gig.
Got it. And are you a full-time educator?
I am. I retired from chiropractic practice and am doing this full-time. And what that boils down to is I travel about 2 to 3 weeks out of the month. I go out usually on Monday, and we'll do events all week long, come back on Saturday or Sunday. And I might have the next week off, in which case there's other things that I need to do. Wow. And but I'm not traveling. I'm doing right now. I'm preparing 3 classes for a convention, which is going to be in New Orleans in October.
Oh, right. That's how we connected, right? Yeah, right. Yeah. So it's the convention is sewing. Is it it's an industry convention, right? Is it specific to your sewing machine company?
Dealers from all over North America. Dealers
That's so cool.
Sell Viking and Pfaff machines, for them to come and learn new techniques and see the new machines, because they're always coming out with new, bigger and better.
Right.
So they can come and see the new machines, as well as get business classes and see all the new notions and new software. And there's also other sort of partnered companies that come, that sell their wares as well.
Yeah.
But it's for dealers.
That's really interesting. And how important is the convention for, tell me a little bit more about sort of the sewing machine side of the world in terms of what that world is exactly. So you've got the sewing machine companies, and you've got people like you that work for the sewing machine companies, and then they're being sold at shops. Help me understand that world just a little bit more.
Well, there's I'm probably not the best person in the company to talk to about it, because I am relatively new, but there are dealers all over the country that they generally will sell also quilting supplies and fabric and notions, or they'll be a sew and vac store. Right. So they sell, they don't sell, so they usually sell a little bit of thread, maybe a little bit of fabric, but they're primarily sewing machines and vacuums.
Yeah.
Whereas there's quilting shops that have incredible fabric and notions, and then they'll sell maybe one brand, maybe many brands. It depends on the store owner, what they want to do. Some are dedicated to Viking or Pfaff, some sell both, as well as Brother and Baby Lock, and you name it. And they're always churning new business by having events. People come, they get excited, they buy new stuff, and they get exposed to the new machines and decide that they like the capabilities of that machine. They can do things, creative things that they couldn't do as easily with their older machine. They're tired of fighting with to get it to do what they want to do.
Yeah.
And the machines are just easier to use, and they're more automated. I mean, the top of the line machines from our company have what looks like an iPad on the side, and they have wireless connectivity. They update on the web. You can pull up a blog with all sorts of creative ideas on there that educators are updating all the time. There's cell phone apps that interface with the machine that give you notices, and there's just so much stuff that you can do with these new machines.
That's remarkable. So your IT background really helps, because these are these incredible, like, IT based systems. They're so much more than people really realize with sewing machines.
Well, they're pretty user friendly too. They react in the same way that an iPad or a smartphone does, in that you touch and hold an icon to open it. You touch with 2 fingers spread to make something bigger, and then bring your fingers together to make it smaller. So the interface is familiar, but there's so much capability there. Then there's the whole software into doing embroidery design. You can buy tons of designs online, and tons of designs come with the machine. But you can also get creative and create your own. So, the sky's the limit. But that software goes from being very simple to being very complex. It's kind of like combining the complex end is kind of like combining Photoshop and Illustrator together. And when you create a file, instead of it going to your printer to be printed, that file you created goes to your sewing machine to be stitched.
That's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. Like, the stuff you see coming, it's just incredible, right? Where we are. Now, I don't do embroidery yet. I imagine that will be one of the things, like, this journey is taking me on ridiculous places. But help me understand, like, if I'm looking at, there are so many different levels. Like, even if you just choose one company, sort of, I guess my question is, if you're a beginner, do you get like more of a beginning machine? Do you like save up and get they can get really expensive. So I'm trying to understand sort of what's the consumer doing in the embroidery market?
It's all over the map. I mean, it's kind of like getting a long arm.
Yeah.
The more money you pay, the easier it is to use and more powerful.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of variety. But when you get the lower end embroidery machines, the area where you view the design is really tiny, so you can't see it as well. You can't do designs right on the machine because you can't see it. It's the size of I don't know. It's like, it could be as small as 2 by 3.
That's tiny.
Inches.
Yeah,
it's tiny. With the high end machines, I do a lot of designing right on the sewing machine because it's a big enough interface.
That's really interesting.
It's easier to use, and also in the high-end machines, there's all sorts of little videos that show you how to do everything. So for a novice,
built in, right? Yeah, and then someone was saying to me that the number of threads you can also use in the embroidery machine matters, so that you don't have to always be changing thread. Is that the higher end machines that are?
Well, those are multi-needle machines. That's a different classification, and. Those machines only do embroidery. They don't sew.
Interesting.
So they're for almost, not always, but more often for people that have businesses where they want to have the capability of making massive amounts of the same design and selling it.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Got it. So it's not the home market that's doing the 5 colors or the 10 color machines. Those are more business focused kinds of things.
Yeah, there are certainly some home users that have those multi-needle machines, but it's
they have to be maniacs.
No, no,
in a good way.
You have to have a sewing machine too.
Right.
But
Right.
I have multiple machines. So
Yeah, me
mine
too.
are,
I don't want to talk about it. We're not talking about that. That's off limits. I never ask people how many sewing machines they have because that's just mean. That's not a nice question at all.
well, I do want to know what long arm you bought.
We it's the I don't even know how to pronounce it. The Quinique, the
Mhm.
Grace one. So it was in our price range, and we could sort of. I mean, we looked at a bunch of them, and I suspect over time we'll try to get other ones. And we got a partial donation of this one, which really helped.
Mm,
But for us, it was good because it had we could buy different parts at different times, so we didn't have to buy into everything.
modular.
And it was it was reasonable, and they were not. It was a local shop that all brands who was super nice and did give us a donate because it was Tulane, and we've got people here. I'm hoping it doesn't pick up. It's the first time I'm trying to do an interview with people, so we have quilters coming to the house all the time now to try it out. It's pretty funny. I think I have to put a touchpad thing, so like I don't have to keep answering the door. Like I have to give out the code. We're trying to find space at the law school or the university, and so they're working on it so that it won't be at the house. Because I'm like the temporary spot is getting out of control, especially because the teenager's not super thrilled that there's a lot of ladies in the living
Loss
room.
of pregnancy. One of our daughters went to Tulane,
Yeah.
so
Oh, really?
yeah.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that's very cool. All right. So tell me about the other question I have with sewing machines is they seem to have a long life. Like when you look at like you get new models out, but it's not like the like tell me the life cycle of sewing machines. Are they like you're releasing stuff all the time that's new, but it also seems like I don't know. I'm confused. I
Well,
don't really know much about
they do more updated things, like they whatever all the different things that they do, they add to it. Like they do it easier and better. Like for instance, I have a friend who has a machine, like a middle of the line other brand embroidery machine, and she came to me because she wanted to embroider the lapel on her husband's dental lab jacket, the
it. Right.
name of his clinic. And that, so I digitized it for her. I made the file for her. We stitched it out, no problem, on my machine. She took it home, and she had a whole lot. It just the thread kept breaking, and because
Yeah.
it's a very small font. So it's just things just get easier. Her machine's
Yeah.
older, so she could get the job done, but it would take her longer because she had to fuss with it, and she had to get a smaller needle and thinner
Yeah.
thread, and
It's
do it, but
harder.
it's harder. So it just gets easier. They get more exacting and
Yeah.
easier to use.
Totally.
So people, it's the people who buy these are getting the new machines are often people that sew a lot. Like
Yeah.
that's their thing, and it's
Right.
like a guy getting a new motorcycle. They don't hesitate
Yeah.
to do something like that,
No,
if
it's
they're
so
really
true.
cycles or boats or whatever. And if a woman
Totally.
sews 30 hours a week, why shouldn't she have a top of the line machine? It's so that she doesn't struggle with
Totally
it.
agree.
That's the way I feel.
Totally agree. I feel like, yeah, well, it's so funny you say that. I totally agree. I feel like it's a declaration of independence. That it's like, I also like that sewing rooms mean you have to take up a lot of space in your house. So
Yeah,
I like that too.
my husband's
Um,
so afraid I'm going to take over his study because my
yeah.
sewing room is just overflowing.
See, there you go. Okay, so tell me the difference between Viking, Singer, and Pfaff. How do we
Okay.
understand the differences?
Well, Singer is an originally an American company, and they've been around for quite a long time. It's mainly a more lower end machine than Pfaff and Viking. Pfaff and Viking are both European, and they're for more exacting, generally older sewers because they are more expensive, but they're a better quality machine than Singer now. I mean, once upon a time, Singer was, the end all be all, but not anymore. Discerning
Yeah,
sewers generally stay away from Singer. Singer's more the young market, people who don't have much
interesting.
money for a sewing machine. In fact, actually, the Singer wing of the educators now have started going to cosplay conventions to represent
Interesting.
Singer.
Yeah,
Because those are the young people that are really into sewing. They make those
right,
costumes and spend
right,
hundreds of hours on them.
Right,
So
and they need a sewing machine. That's really interesting, and that's the market to get them in. That's
yeah, to
really
get them
interesting.
started sewing is more the Singer's the lower end. Although Viking and Pfaff have simple machines as well, and they're very good. But Singer is probably more well known in this country.
Really interesting. And what's the difference between Viking and Pfaff?
Well, they're both, like I said, European companies. They, Viking is part of Viking Husqvarna. It was originally a Swedish company, and Pfaff is German. So
Mm-hmm.
they
So just
they both have designers all over the world. When I talk to different people in different departments, they are from all over. There's, software designers in England, and then engineers in Sweden, and they're all over. The corporate headquarters is in Nashville, Tennessee.
wow, interesting. Very interesting. All right, so tell me about being an elite educator. What does that mean, and how did you become one?
Well, a lead educator means that I have been trained by the company to do the company-sponsored events. And the company-sponsored events are set up in different parts of the country. There are regional sales managers that may have 4 or 5 different states that they cover, and they have contact with the dealers who want to have these events. So the regional sales manager is assigned an educator, a lead educator, for 1 week periodically, and the sales manager then sets up the events with the dealers. I contact the dealers, and we talk about what kind of event they want to have, and the dealers invite who they want to invite, and they do the groundwork as far as getting people to the event. And I come and generally teach a technique to them as well as a project. So the project will hopefully learn something new as well as have fun, and they'll sew on the top of the line machine, hopefully fall in love with it. If not, they go home with a project that they had fun making and learned a new skill that day, had lunch, had a good time.
That's really interesting. Now, how many of them have already bought the machines, and how many are you there to help them encourage to buy, do you think, generally?
It varies from area. Depends on the dealer. They're encouraged not to fill up the class with owners because unless they can't get new people, because it's probably not the best business practice for them.
Right, because this is to try to get people to know the
if we're coming in, it would be nice for them to develop some sales, because then it trickles down. People come in for fabric, and they come in for notions, and it's better for their business. So it really varies. I've taught at events where there were no owners and where half the people were owners.
Interesting. I went to a local one where there was I think a brother person there teaching a class on stuff, and it was classes part technique, part sales, part what I mean. So it was interesting to sort of see. And helpful. I mean, learning, really, I didn't know that about that. So it made me more interested in the machine because I could better understand what it did. And it's hard just sitting there to understand. I mean, unless you do a lot of work online, looking up and stuff like that, it's hard to understand them. So they're complicated.
Yeah, well, generally the educator will, show how to use the machine in an organized fashion. So you come home with knowing how to use a lot of things that you maybe didn't even know were on the machine.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good for owners and non-owners.
That's really cool.
They have a good time.
That's really interesting.
It's funny. I just did one in Upper Peninsula, Michigan. It was a first for me. It was in a Chinese restaurant.
Really? Oh, that's great. I love it. That's so great.
They had I think 30 people, and there was no place else in the town to have it. And
I love it. That's great. We can figure it out, right? We are very creative people. That's really great. I love it. Well, this is so awesome. I'm really psyched. We haven't gotten into embroidery yet, but I would love as we start to understand it. We got into embroidery because, of course, like your friend, we needed to make logos for our T-shirts so we could be identified. So now everybody's like, we should do more in embroidery. I'm like, oh no. Okay.
Well, you can quilt. You can do quilt as you go very easily. In fact, the software, the design software, you can pick a design, maybe a floral embroidery, and then there's a quilt block assistant that will then quilt it, set up the quilting for that block in any way that you want. Like
oh, that's so cool. Oh my gosh.
You can dense or loose, and then you make the block in your hoop with the embroidery machine, and then you do quilt as you go, so you make multiple blocks that way.
Oh, that's really cool. All right.
You have a long arm now, so not as much of a...
What? The long arm?
Yeah, the long arm,
No, we're all about exploring. Yes. Well, the long arm is a bit it's fun. People are there. You've got someone here today playing with it. Yeah, our goal is really to understand all of this. Now, we totally didn't go for half an hour, but because that's impossible. But we try. Yeah. See now. So the last question: intellectual property.
You're cutting in and out.
Did your job full videotape and your something? The brother got like no videotape. Sorry, intellectual property. Any thoughts? Any worries about that as you do your job for the sewing machine company? Do you let people videotape you when you're at the class?
Nobody has asked.
The one I went to, he was like, no videotaping.
No, nobody has asked to videotape.
I guess they don't videotape anymore. They do.
But the embroidery designs are a company property. So they are, I don't know if they're copyrighted or, what the situation is, but they're not given away, just like you wouldn't give away quilt patterns. The digitizer worked many hours on those designs, so they're the company property. Although when somebody comes to a company-sponsored event, they're generally given a couple hundred beautiful designs on a USB stick as a gift for coming. So that's an incentive to go to the events. So, but they're not supposed to, just hand those designs, to anybody. That was a gift from the company to them.
Yeah. So, and I imagine that Pfaff and Viking are licensing from big companies like Disney and other things to have characters and other things in the system. Is that right?
That's brother has the exclusive license on Disney characters.
Interesting.
All of our designs are done in-house.
Interesting.
There's character designs, like little funny monsters and kids stuff. Yeah. But they're all, original designs from the company. We do work with digitizers outside the company, but then they come in-house and, or they sell their under one of our brands. Like Inspire Needles are part of the Viking Pfaff family, and there's a whole cloth quilt actually that is a new CD. It's got about 15 or 20 different designs on it. It's beautiful.
Oh, I love that.
That's an outside digitizer that now is sort of under our wing. We're sponsoring that.
Really interesting. Love it. Well, this is so awesome. So you're going to be in New Orleans? Cool.
First week in October. Yeah,
first week in October. Well, I would love to come by or say hi to you or experience the things you do. Maybe it would be so great. I'm really interested. This is a whole new world. I think such an important part of it.
Well, we're also unveiling a new multi-needle machine, embroidery machine. So if you are interested in the multi-needle, there's going to be a Pfaff making one.
Oh, very cool. Love it. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Certainly glad to give you a tour.
I would love it. I would totally love it.
Marriott on Canal Street.
Yeah? Is that where you'll be?
Yeah,
that's where.
Yeah,
fantastic.
There's thousands of people there, so they have to have a big convention.
Yeah, love it. All right, well, cool. Well, let's follow up, and I would love to chat more with you. And I'm a little scared of the embroidery stuff, but we'll probably be jumping in pretty soon because, this is how this project has gone. My other project, 10 years, nobody cares. This one, 20 weeks. It's like insanity. So it is what it is. It is a sewing world. And I think the one thing I would say, we've now interviewed 135 people, which is crazy. We are generally all overachievers. That would be we come from all walks of life, but we kind of throw ourselves in ridiculous ways. So that seems to be consistent with the people that I've been interviewing. So, and you're a good example.
It's
right?
almost like a mania that develops or something, an obsession. There should be a psychiatric.
It's not right.
Diagnostic.
It's true.
Mania
it's really true. Yeah.
Go to sleep thinking about fabric and wake up thinking about quilt patterns.
It's so true. It's so true. Oh my goodness. And then suddenly you are working full time for a sewing machine company when you're supposed to be retired. So traveling the country for three weeks out of the month. Yeah, not that much, not so retired, I would say.
Well, yeah, I didn't really plan on retiring at this so soon, but then when this came up, it was like, I can like that idea. Cool. Why not?
Well, all right. Fabulous. Have a great day.
You too.
All right. Take care. Bye. So this is Elizabeth Townsend Guard. You've been listening to Just Wanna Quilt, a research podcast coming out of Tulane University Law School. We want to hear from you. Join our army, our quilting army. Go to our Facebook page. Suggest people to be interviewed. Suggest yourself to be interviewed. We are excited to hear from you. But most importantly, I hope you get a chance to quilt today.